In the last 5 years, the average home prices in the Greater Toronto Area was as low as $930,000 in 2020, and then it went as high as $1.19 million in 2022 after the pandemic. That's a staggering 28% increase over 3 years. But what's happened to prices since then? Well, since then, disaster struck the economy, rates ballooned up like crazy, before finally starting to fall last year in 2024, and prices ended up dropping back down. But surprisingly to some, but not all, despite the chaos and the volatility in the market, average prices did not drop back down to pre-pandemic prices in 2020. By the end of 2024, when the numbers just came out, the average home price in the Greater Toronto Area ended up being a little bit shy of $1.13 million, which is still very high. That's just a meager 5.3% price drop from the prices when they peaked in 2022. This is much lower than the 20% increase that we saw. Keep in mind, these are just average prices for the entire year. And a lot of people look at this and saying, there's still a long ways to go for prices to continue dropping. But here's the thing, we're already seeing price drops slow down. In fact, one of Canada's big banks is calling for 6.4% increase in the average home prices by the end of 2025. Something doesn't add up. And do these bankers at TD and economists have something that we don't know? Or are we going to continue seeing price drops, perhaps for a third year in a row? Keep watching to find out just how high prices can go in 2025 or how low. And as a bonus, I've created a scenario of what the housing price curve should look like if the pandemic never happened. Oh, if only, right? So make sure to stay tuned for the details. Hi, my name is Zen, and if you enjoy my data-driven and number-crunching real estate updates, be sure to like and subscribe. The average price in 2024 is finally here. It's $1,126,263, or it was down 0.03% from 2023, which means that prices didn't really move. We haven't seen back-to-back prices drop in the Toronto real estate market since the monster crash in the 90s, which I'll get later into on this video. So which direction are we going to go, up or down in 2025? Prices continue to crash or prices are rebounding? I'm going to go through this thought exercise in both directions for you, and you can ultimately decide for yourself. So here's a fun chart I put together for you to show you the bullish side. This chart here shows you the average price of a Toronto home since the Toronto Real Estate Board started tracking prices. The average price change, meaning like whether it goes up or down from the previous year, when smoothed out and averaged out, is increasing by 6.63%. Now, if I remove the last 5 years, let's call these the volatile pandemic years, the average price change is positive, increasing by 6.60%. And if I plot this 6.60% increase from 2019 onwards, we arrive at an average price of $1,127,904 at the end of 2024. The actual price is $1,126,263. So the smoothed out pandemic price change arrives at almost exactly the same price if I were to smooth that out, removing the pandemic. It's off just by like $1,642 or 0.15%. So are we priced correctly right now at the start of 2025? And should we expect an average price increase of 6.63%? Well, coincidentally, TD thinks so at the end of 2025, and they believe that Ontario prices should see an increase of 6.4%. I actually don't agree with this, but I'll give you my thoughts at the end of this video. Now, here's the bearish side of the argument. I'm going to go back to my average price chart. You see that tiny little blip down there? I'll circle it for you. This is the crash of the 80s. Now let me zoom into this blip for you so you understand it more. Prices more than doubled. They went up 151% from 1985 to 1989, before prices kept decreasing for 7 years, cumulatively for 28%, give or take, before it started slowly increasing again. It took 13 years, not adjusting for inflation, to get back to the peak prices of 1989. Prices go up fast, but they're very sticky on the way down. So, was first quarter of 2022 pricing the 1989 peak moment of yesteryear for us? Are we going to have a wasted decade in real estate of zero appreciation, meaning we should see prices come down in 2025? There's definitely merit to this argument. It's exactly as Mark Twain once said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So is this where we're going to go and where we're going to go see? Maybe. Here are my thoughts for where 2025 average prices will end. I'll illustrate this with a story. I've personally never been much of like an equities or stock investor. My bread and butter is real estate. I know it well, and I have an information advantage against most people because I've been in it for so long. So if I were to simply look at the price of a stock and try to rationalize which direction it's going, how much it's worth, I'm going to lose the nuances that explain the price action or the change in the price. So let's look at Tesla stock as an example. I'm looking at this chart right here, and I can see that it's priced at $416 US at the moment of shooting right now. And looking at the two dips in this chart on March 2020 and January 2023, I would have said I should have bought without knowing about the pandemic in 2020 and the historic interest rate increase in 2023. I wouldn't have known that just looking at this price. I didn't know the nuances and why the price right now is 416 USD. In my mind, looking at this chart, I'm going to say Tesla stock price is going to drop for sure. It makes no sense. The PE ratios make no sense. The market revenue to market cap makes no sense, et cetera, right? This is very similar to that bullish and bearish argument I presented to you for real estate just earlier. Just looking at the prices and trying to arrive at a conclusion is not a good thesis without understanding the actual nuances of what makes the prices go up or down. So here's my take on what will the average price be at the end of 2025, factoring all the nuances I know with the expertise I know. We know that entry field properties will be in demand and they'll likely go up in price. These are your properties that are ground-based, meaning you can like walk into your door without much stairs or elevator, that are priced between $900,000 to $1.3 million. We also know that at best, condos will be flat. So when I look at the sales volume, meaning all the sales from last year in 2024, you can see in this chart over here that the prices between $900,000 to $1.3 million makes up about 29% of all the sales. And this 29% of all the sales will outperform the rest. These are your semi-detaches and your townhomes in that quadrant. And with some of the entry-level detaches that are mixed in the burbs. Now the condo segment makes up also around 29%, and this segment will underperform. A majority of these condos will be in Toronto, and this is exactly why you see that the Toronto median price, meaning this is the halfway point, is as low as the Durham prices for the median prices as well, because there are a lot of condos bringing down that median price. So let's just call it a wash. But keep in mind, freehold properties are priced higher and will pull up the average, and they make up a bulk of the sales in all of Greater Toronto area. So the detaches will increase a bit due to the skewing of the prices ranges from like $900,000 to $2 million plus. So factoring in these three nuances, I would say at best, the average price may land somewhere between 1.115 million to like 1.14 million, which is essentially a range of -1% if we have a really hard recession, to a high of 2.5% increase if rates come down hard and come down fast for a strong spring market. So I don't agree with TD's bullish 6.4% call, but I could personally be wrong too. My base case right now is that we are closer to a flat market for the rest of the decade than prices aggressively accelerating at the end of, say, 2030. If you're wondering how I arrived at the freehold predictions and the condo predictions, you can check out these videos over here where I go into a deep analysis of each segment of the market. The top one here is of freehold properties outperforming the rest of the market. The bottom video is of condos underperforming the rest of the market as the market continues to bifurcate. I'll see you in the next episode. And remember, your move, your future. See ya!